advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, everybody on the Real American Network, Really American, and of course, my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. We're going to have some fun today. Now, I want to be honest with all of you because we had a lot of comments yesterday on social media about the controversial guest, Richie Black, that I had in yesterday. And we were having issues with our phone lines. And that's why I didn't take calls. So we will be taking calls today. The phone lines are fixed. Very controversial guest we had on yesterday, to say the least. But listen, that's in a way what this show is all about. We're going to have some guests on the show that you guys are going to agree with on a lot of different issues that you might be very fond of. We're going to have some guests on this show who you're probably going to hate and you're going to disagree with on just about everything. But at least in my opinion, that's the beauty of what we do here. I'm going to be having all sorts of different people on this show. And that's what I've been doing, with my radio career for years. And I think that's what makes this show unique and a little bit different. Sometimes you're not going to like some of the guests. Sometimes you're going to agree. Sometimes you're not going to agree. Sometimes we're going to have controversial figures on. And he was certainly a controversial figure. That's for sure. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we are going to be joined by Aaron Rupert. He's a journalist, and his newsletter, Public Notice, is awesome. So he's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. There is a lot that is going on, particularly this week over the course of the last 24 hours. It seems as though Donald Trump has tacoed once again, and I have some information to share with you on that. It appears as though additional sanctions on Russia were tacoed. Donald Trump has been talking a tough game since January about these sanctions on Russia. And now it appears as though the only country that is going to be sanctioned is India for Russia's bombings. You cannot make this stuff up. And while all this stuff is going on, you have members of Donald Trump's administration that are saying he deserves awards because of this new ballroom that is going to be, built right next to the White House. I mean, again, tacoed. And now Donald Trump is going on Truth Social saying meetings with Vladimir Putin went great. And that is why we call him Taco Trump. So to talk a little bit about this and a lot of other topics, he's a great journalist. His newsletter is awesome. It's called Public Notice. And I think he's had almost every prominent politician on the left retweet something that he's put out there. Aaron Rupert joining us right now on the show. Aaron, thanks for coming on. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Aaron. I'm just curious to start. What is your take on these sanctions on India, for these Russia bombings, and the fact that no sanctions on Russia, yet Donald Trump has been calling a tough game about how he was going to sanction Russia since January? Like, what do you make of this?
Well, I certainly make of it that I don't think Trump at any point has taken steps that, actually coerce Russia in any way. It seems like he sort of wants to have the news cycles of talking tough about Putin and talking about how disappointed he is. And, he said straight up that he has nice conversations with Putin and then feels like, I think to use Trump's term, that he's tapping him along, as he puts it. So that's kind of, I sort of dismiss a lot of what he says about Russia until we actually see some action behind the words, which I don't think we really have. And, I can't really explain the India stuff because, it seems like he's kind of putting India in the same bin as Russia. I mean, he even had a post, I think, last week where he talked about how they're two dying economies. And, if India wants to keep buying Russian oil, they can both, their economies can kind of die together, sort of thing. And that I'm not totally sure what's going on there. That one seems a little harder to explain to me. But I am kind of waiting. I know Trump has an event in around an hour to hear him talk about Witkoff's meeting with Putin and Russia and what came of that. We've kind of flip-flopped numerous times already where, when Trump came into office, it seemed like he was really doing Putin's bidding to the point where, cut off briefly weapons aid to Ukraine and it seemed like he was almost on the verge of like doing weapons aid to Russia, and it was getting kind of weird there. And then he kind of went the other way and started talking about how Putin was disappointing him, and now apparently there was this great meeting. And so we'll see what comes of that next hour when Trump speaks.
What did you make, Aaron, of the Donald Trump interview on, I believe it was CNBC yesterday, where it was numerous lies, including him saying that he had a 71% approval rating? Like, he said a lot of crazy things in that interview yesterday. And of course, in the last couple of days, 1,500% discounts on pharmaceutical drugs, which is absolutely absurd. I mean, the last couple of days, even for Donald Trump standards, maybe he's saying some pretty absurd lies.
Yeah, for sure. You're right to point that out. And actually, as you were going through that, I mean, I even clipped that. But it's notable how little pickup that sort of thing gets from kind of other outlets. I mean, obviously, it was on CNBC. And I thought it was notable because Trump these days, I mean, he'll go on Fox News and talk to Maria Bartiromo, or he'll go on Newsmax, but he's rarely doing, mainstream interviews. And, CNBC, especially the show that he went on, Squawk Box, is kind of a right-leaning channel. Obviously it's, kind of a business-focused channel, but they certainly have more Republicans on there than Democrats. And usually the interviews are pretty soft, not quite as soft as Fox, but there's not a lot of pushback happening. And even in the Trump interview, there wasn't a ton of pushback. I mean, it was kind of giving him enough rope to hang himself, so to speak. So, yeah, I mean, there was a comment that Mike Johnson made, coincidentally on CNN, which is another rare kind of mainstream media hit for these guys, last week, where Johnson said something about Trump having 70%, or I think he said 90% approval, actually. And he didn't qualify this at all, and then it kind of came out later that he was probably talking about a poll that showed Trump's Republican support around that level. So at least there was like something to that, even though, the clip was making the rounds where it's like, wow, up is down, Trump's approval rating is 90%. What's Mike Johnson talking about? But with Trump, he's just making it up that he has a 70% approval. And that was one where the host didn't really push him on that. So, I think Trump has really kind of effectively sort of beaten people down with just the relentlessness of the lies that he tells. And to the point where, he can say stuff like that, which is like delusionally nuts on, major national, if not international TV. And, you and I might talk about it, but, it certainly wasn't making headlines in the New York Times, Washington Post, or really anywhere else.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. And I'm glad you put that out there on your social media platforms because, we can't normalize the crazy things that he says on a daily basis. I don't think we've ever talked about this with you, the Epstein files, but let me start here with what they're doing with Maxwell. I mean, this is unprecedented. One of the biggest child sex traffickers out there, and she has a 20-year prison sentence, and they transfer her to this low minimum security prison where obviously she's treated better. She's going to be more comfortable. And yet MAGA Republicans for years have been talking about sex trafficking. By the way, I'm on their side. It's horrible. We all can agree on that. Pedophilia. But yet they don't seem to be criticizing Donald Trump, who claims he had nothing to do with this, which I don't buy, sending her to this Club Med facility. I mean, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I think the end game of this is becoming pretty clear where, it seems like the way it's going to play out is Maxwell gets a pardon. There was a quote kind of leaking out today, I think, from ABC News about how Maxwell apparently told Todd Blanche during their two meetings that they had last week before she was transferred that she never saw Trump engaging in any inappropriate or criminal activity. So, kind of using her to try to kind of, exonerate Trump or, at least deflect the blame to Bill Clinton or Larry Summers or these other people who have ties with Epstein. So, there's even, there was reporting, I'm not sure who broke the story last night, but of a meeting tonight with Pam Bondi and, Kash Patel, and apparently JD Vance is going to be there, where, it's surreal to read these headlines because it's very clearly kind of a meeting about the cover up and how they're going to coordinate their stories and the best way to spin this. And, in any other era, this would be almost like an impeachable offense, kind of, reminds you of like the Watergate tapes when Nixon and some of his aides would, talk and on recordings that came out later to kind of coordinate the cover up. And, this is all just kind of happening in plain sight. So it's, kind of makes you, again, kind of feel like you're taking crazy pills where it seems like it should be a bigger story. But so, I guess, my thing is that there was a minute there a couple weeks ago where it seemed like from kind of the right flank of MAGA that, there was some discontent over the cover up and kind of a push for more transparency and accountability. And, kind of the idea that this could even, kind of splinter Trump's base, on the right in a way that's kind of unprecedented because most of the time, his base is solidly behind him. But I've kind of gotten the sense since then that, the wagons have kind of been circled here and that, There's still kind of this perception out there that Marjorie Taylor Greene or Comer, they're really working for transparency and they're doing these subpoenas. They're going to get to the bottom of it. But I think when push comes to shove, I would be shocked if they end up taking any votes or doing anything that would diminish Trump's standing or really jeopardize his, political fortune going forward. So that's just kind of my own read of things. Just kind of the tea leaves, the media hits that I pay attention to on Newsmax, Fox News, Benny Johnson's show, and so forth.
Right.
So, I think they're going to try to cover this up. They're going to use Maxwell as a key part of that. They're going to try to get their story straight tonight. It'll be a big news story next month when Congress comes back, and there's potential votes being taken to compel the release of some of the investigatory materials that the government has. But I am not at all convinced that the cover-up won't work. I hope I'm wrong, but we'll have to wait and see.
I hope you're wrong as well. There is a story, Aaron, that I wanted to ask you about that came out. CNN reported that there was this private J.D. Vance meeting where all they were talking about was how to deal with this Epstein stuff. J.D. Vance's people denied it. They said it was completely false. I doubt that CNN, not that CNN's perfect, but I doubt that they would put out a story saying that they, in depth, that they had this meeting and J.D. Vance wanted to talk about what they should do about the Epstein files. What do you make of this story? Does it mean anything to you? Do you think J.D. Vance is concerned? And do you think this meeting did happen?
I'm actually not totally familiar with the specific report that you're citing there, so I can't, opine directly on that. I mean, there was even reporting that I am aware of from a few weeks back where apparently J.D. Vance was in New York meeting with Fox News execs kind of on the down low, and there was, sort of rumors that maybe that was, if they really, turn on Trump over this, how he can best handle to kind of position himself going forward. As I mentioned earlier, there's reporting tonight that there's going to be this meeting, basically to coordinate with some of the administration officials related to Epstein, their stories going forward. And J.D. Vance was reportedly going to be in attendance at that. So, again, I don't really see that there's a huge fracture here. I mean, my read of even some of the fuss that Dan Bongino has made about, of course, he went on Fox and said Epstein killed himself and there's no bombshells in the files and things like this. And then there was reporting that he was upset with Pam Bondi, over her kind of foot dragging to make more of this public. But, I really get the sense with Bongino that he's just missing being a podcaster and misses the attention and kind of the shit posting, just kind of the rush that comes from that for him. So, they've been framed as kind of this like, oh boy, Dan Bongino is really principled. He really wants to get to the bottom of this. I don't think that's true at all. And I think that's the same case. I think that's true for Marjorie Taylor Greene and Comer. I don't think any of these people really have principles to speak of at all. And if they do have any, it's to protect Trump. And so I think that's going to, ultimately mean more to them than, getting to the bottom of conspiracy theories that have always been kind of a means to an end, to kind of denigrate Democrats to paint them as being some sort of industrial child abuse cabal, even when I think that the evidence for that has obviously been pretty scant.
Aaron, kind of a loaded question here. When you look at Trump's approval numbers, when you look at these tariffs and the American consumers that are obviously paying for it, when you look at the war in the Ukraine, which is still going on, Russia and Vladimir Putin continuing bombing and killing innocent people, of course, what's going on in the Middle East right now in Gaza is a travesty. I'm sure you would agree with that as well. And a lot of people that are not partisan hacks that specialize in this sort of stuff think that a recession is right around the corner. We had the worst jobs report that just came out, I believe, in 5 years since December of 2020. What do you make of all this stuff? And, a lot of people that call into my show are depressed. Where this country's headed right now and where it's going. I mean, what would you say to them? Do you think there's any light at the end of the tunnel here?
Well, I don't really know what to say to people who are depressed about the state of things because I am too. But, I certainly think that Trump is kind of testing one of the central premises of his political appeal, which has always been, I think, that it's easy to tune out a lot of the nonsense when economic conditions are mostly good for people. I mean, I think that's what kind of got him through his first term. He was riding pretty high right up until COVID. And, COVID made the nonsense harder to dismiss for kind of a different reason, although it was related, where, people's safety ended up kind of being on the line with the misinformation that Trump was spreading. And of course, there are economic consequences to the shutdowns and, just everything that we went through in 2020. And then I think, the discontent that people felt 2022 onward, through the election last year helped Trump. But now, he's in a spot where because of his policies, it was kind of pushing us towards stagflation where, obviously, as you mentioned, the jobs report was pretty ghastly. We're not quite in recession territory because it's still positive, but it's very close to no job growth at this point, and inflation is kind of above the benchmark that the Fed would like it to be at, which is roughly 2%. We're a little up closer to 3 at this point. And yet Trump is, trying to, to the point of almost firing Jerome Powell. I mean, he's, basically making his life miserable to get him to cut rates, which will increase inflation even further. And, the unemployment rate isn't that high where, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of slack in the labor market. And, his anti-immigration policies have a lot to do with that, with kind of an outflow of people from the country at this point. So, that to me is really kind of a dangerous game for Trump to play because, I think people can kind of ignore a lot of the foreign policy stuff. I think voters have done that, throughout Trump's term and just kind of focused on their own bottom line. And if he puts himself in a spot where, even if he tries to cook the books with the BLS, which it seems like he's going to do, there's diminishing returns on that, where, if you lose your job, Trump's not going to be able to lie to you about that. If you go to the grocery store and things cost 5% more than they did a year ago, people are going to notice that. So, I think that there was a scenario where he could have been more of, done a little bit of tariffs on the margins like he did first term and, just kind of done tax cuts and things like that and kept the economy going pretty strong. But he's taking us pretty far down the road here of, kind of obviously corrupting the independence of the Fed and you're having really irresponsible monetary policy where, I do think that economically it's hard to have a ton of optimism in terms of where we're going.
Yeah, sadly, I agree with you. Last question on a lighter note. You are one of the best in the business at clipping videos together, putting them up on social media in a very timely fashion. I mean, can you name me a politician that hasn't retweeted you? I don't think I don't know if Donald Trump has ever retweeted you. Has he? I'm just curious, Aaron, like, what does that feel like? I mean, what you're doing, some of the most prominent people on the planet are retweeting your stuff. It seems like on a daily basis. And then it's crazy because I go on your X account and all these prominent politicians, very powerful and big name politicians are always monitoring your page. That's got to feel kind of cool though, that this is an everyday thing for you. Is there anybody that hasn't retweeted you again?
Not too many on the Democratic side, but I don't let it go to my head too much because most of the time those accounts are being managed by staffers. There are some exceptions to that. But, oftentimes, because I'm getting DMs from kind of the main accounts a lot of the time from like U.S. senators or House members, and it's almost always a staffer. And they're very transparent about that. Now, there are some exceptions, like Ro Khanna is one, for instance, who manages his own account. But, especially with some of the older politicians, like they're not quite as online as you or I may be. But no, it's really cool to be in the mix. But, it's a lot of work because I'm going through all the hearings, when Congress is doing things to find the clips. And then even days like today, I'm mining all of the morning shows, trying to find clips. So, it's gratifying. It makes it feel worth it for all the time you put into it. But like I said, I wish I was kind of on a DM basis with Bernie Sanders, but that's not actually him running that account.
That's too bad. That does not surprise me, Aaron. Well, I will say this, full disclosure, you help me with my show prep every day. There's a few accounts that I look at. You're like right there. I go on some of the Midas Touch accounts as well. But you do such a good job, and I appreciate you. Can you share with my listeners your newsletter, Public Notice, because you're a great journalist and you're one of the best out there. How can people sign up for that?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It's at publicnotice.co. And, if you like some of the topics we talked about today and my analysis, you'll probably like the newsletter. So check it out. Most of what I publish is free, publicnotice.co.
Aaron, you're the best, my friend. I appreciate your time. As always, we'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Aaron.
Take care.
There you go. Aaron Rupert, everybody. I did not know, by the way, that Donald Trump retweeted his stuff too. I did not know that. I would imagine anybody and everybody on the left has retweeted his videos from time to time. He really is one of the best. Asen from Midas Touch is another guy that I monitor on X a lot. Aaron is the best. Why? Because these guys are literally up to the minute editing video and posting things on social media before anybody else. And they're posting relevant things. They're not just posting things up there just to post. For example, if Caroline the Liar Levette is doing a press conference right now and she says something crazy, within a minute or two, Aaron's going to have that up on his social media page. So they're really good at what they do. Aaron's really, really awesome. So we really do appreciate him taking the time to join us. All right. So here's what we are going to do when we come back, ladies and gentlemen. Besides take phone calls, I promised you guys that we would take phone calls, and we are going to do that. Okay. But coming up next, you're not going to believe what Kevin Hassett said about the 2012 election. He said it on national television yesterday. Ken Martin was on Fox News yesterday. He absolutely destroyed Republicans and Donald Trump live on Fox News. We have that audio to play for you. And Donald Trump, once again, lying about tariffs, lying about pharmaceutical drugs, and most of the media is not covering this, but we are, and we're going to play it for you when we come back. We'll also take your phone calls on the other side at 702-221-7283. We're also in the YouTube Super Chat where your questions and comments can be heard. We are going to take a quick 90-second break, and I promise you when we come back in this next segment, we will also take phone calls. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. All right, welcome back, everybody. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Programming note, Leonard Cardinale will be doing the entire show with me tomorrow. We've rescheduled him for tomorrow, so Leonard will be in here tomorrow. The very beautiful and talented Ana Braga, who is former MAGA, now on the right side of history. She's going to be back in studio co-hosting with me on Tuesday. And Z will be back soon, by the way. Z seems to be a big hit. I have these great people in my life that love to co-host with me, and I think they do such a wonderful job. So I'm very honored for that. And as I say, Leonard is one of them. He's a great guy, and he'll be in studio tomorrow co-hosting with me. I know you guys love Leonard. He's in every week. Sometimes we schedule him on different days because we have certain guests on. But Leonard will be here every week. Usually it's Wednesdays, but it will be tomorrow, just to let you know. All right. So, Kevin Hassett was on national television last night, and he's asked about the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and as we know, there was a firing, and as we know, when those statistics came out, they gave out information that was honest and truthful, and Donald Trump said it was rigged. Well, here's Kevin Hassett saying that the 2012 election for Barack Obama was rigged with labor statistics. Have a listen to this.
And when you say potential suspicious patterns that they're going to look at, I mean, I remember talking with you years ago about the BLS putting numbers out that could help, Democrats put questions ahead of Republicans. So how hard is it or easy is it to manipulate this data?
Well, the problem is that if you want to have like statistical certainty, right, then you need to have a large number of observations that are suspicious. And so there are certainly anecdotes that are very concerning. One of the famous ones in the literature is that right before Mitt Romney and Barack Obama were running for office for president, there was a GDP release that was really surprisingly positive right before the election. I thought I had previously briefed Mitt Romney's campaign that I thought that they're probably going to have a number that looked like a recession. And then, in fact, they got a really big, beautiful number right before the election, probably had a big effect on the election. And then that number ultimately was revised away. And it was revised away because it turned out that the number happened because of the biggest ever, all the way back to World War II, increase in defense spending. No kidding.
I mean, that is exactly what we've spoken about. That's right.
Yes,
and that's what I'm referring to.
When you see something like that, then you got to say, no, this is not the kind of thing that should happen. Our data agencies need to make sure that the data are trustworthy and not being manipulated politically. And I'm 100% sure that President Trump has made that one of his highest priorities, that we put together a team that produces data that people can 100% trust and that people know where the data came from and can open source it as much as possible.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. Kevin Hassett just suggested that the Bureau of Labor Statistics rigged the 2012 election for Barack Obama. How can you take any of these people seriously? And I'll tell you one person that I do take seriously. It's Ken Martin, who absolutely destroyed the argument that somehow Donald Trump is doing such a great job for America and American people. This is what they voted for. Listen to Ken Martin, who was on Fox News yesterday, and just destroying Fox News and these right-wing talking points with the facts that Donald Trump's numbers are way down. Have a listen to this.
Basic polling that it is, the Democrats have just had their worst polling ever in terms of approval rating. And I know, let me just give you, 15 seconds to try to say, big picture, how are you going to address that? Is it based on the identity of who's in the party, or will you have some new messages and new policies to put forward?
Well, we have to do a better job there for sure. But remember, Dana, that the 26 elections and 25 elections will be a referendum on Donald Trump. And his numbers are actually in the toilet right now. He's sitting at 37% approval rating. He's one of the most unpopular politicians or presidents in recent memory. And so, listen, if I was a Republican Party right now, I would be worried, too, which is why they're trying to cheat and steal these elections in Texas.
I know you and I could go on and on, but I have to get going. We can get back to Bill Hemmer. Thank you so much, Ken Martin.
Yeah, exactly. When somebody actually brings the facts when it comes to Donald Trump and his failures and the lies with poll numbers and everything else, suddenly they have to go. Good job, Ken Martin, speaking truth. They want to talk about how the numbers of the Democrats are low, poll numbers, which they are, but look at Donald Trump's numbers. They're unprecedented how low they are right now. Now, I want to play you an unbelievable moment where Donald Trump basically is showing his racism publicly. This is a clip of Donald Trump talking about undocumented workers. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is the way they talked about slaves. Listen to his words. And again, this is on a national TV network. Donald Trump talking about undocumented workers. Listen to his words, because as I repeat myself again, this is the type of talk about how enslaved ancestors of African Americans were treated and were spoken about. It's unbelievable. Have a listen to this.
Back to their country with a pass back in legally, and we're doing things that are very difficult to do and very complex, but it works really well. We're sending them back, and then they're schooling, they're learning, they're coming in legally. We have a lot of that going on, but we're taking care of our farmers. We can't let our farmers not have anybody, these people, you can't replace them very easily. People that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried, we've tried, everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. I said, what happens if they get it to a farmer the other day? What happens if they get a bad back? He said, they don't get a bad back, sir, because if they get a bad back, they die. I said, that's interesting, isn't it? These are very, in many ways, they're very, very special people.
Donald Trump just said the racist part out loud. He said, first of all, they're not doing this kind of work in the inner cities. That's absolutely false. Some are. He said they don't get a bad back because if they get a bad back, they die. This is how they talked about slaves back in the day. And Donald Trump is speaking this kind of language out there in the open on a national network, and it's sickening. It's why I've always said that Donald Trump is a blatant racist. We can go back to when Donald Trump was quoted in Playboy magazine as saying, I don't want black people counting my money in my casinos. I want Jews counting my money. This is the guy who was sued and lost thousands of civil lawsuits with his properties in New York because he didn't want black people living on his properties. How many things does this man have to say for you finally to understand what a bigot he is? He obviously is misogynist. I don't have to give you all the examples of that. You should certainly know by now. But he's blatantly a racist. And when you look at his immigration policy and you look at what he's doing to brown people in this country, it goes to show you it's not make America great again. It's make America white again. Now, the amazing thing is the stuff that he's been talking about when it comes to tariffs and when it comes to the pharmaceuticals and the lies that he's doubling down on with the claims that he's making up to 1,500% you're going to get a discount on your pharmaceuticals. Again, he's doubling down on this nonsense, and I'm telling you, because of what this man is doing, a lot of people in this country are going to die.
But on pharmaceuticals, we'll be putting a initially small tariff on pharmaceuticals, but in 1 year,
President
1.5 years maximum, it's going to go to 150%, and then it's going to go to 250%, because we want pharmaceuticals made in our country. And that's not the CHIPS Act like Biden did, because he didn't know what he was doing, where they gave billions of dollars to companies that had more money than they knew what to do with.
Okay, let me be very clear on this. A lot of Americans are going to die because of this. At least 45% of Americans already can't afford their necessary health care. 31 million Americans are already in a tremendous amount of medical debt. And now it's going to go down 250% because we want pharmaceuticals. You know, listen, the bottom line here is Donald Trump is going to force to pay 250% more because he's a sociopath. And a lot of Americans, when it comes to the Medicaid issue, forget about even the pharmaceuticals and the drugs, will say, get off your ass and work. I've given the statistics out before. I'll give them out again because I don't make it up. 30% of people in America that have jobs are not even offered health care. And those that are offered health care, almost half of them can't afford it. People are going to die because of these policies. And now Trump eventually wants to force you to pay 250% more for your prescription medication. People are going to die. So I didn't cover this yesterday, and I wanted to get to this today because Representative Flood, who is a right-wing MAGA buffoon, did one of those town halls. And in this town hall, there was a lot of booing going on, rightfully so, because Flood is your typical MAGA imbecile who has no problem with 17 million Americans losing their Medicaid. He has no problem with, taking food stamps off the table for so many Americans that are struggling, that are living paycheck to paycheck. And I got to give a lot of credit to the people that were in the crowd. Now, MAGA Republicans will say, well, they just bust in Democrats. The DNC just busts in Democrats. No evidence of that at all. These are his constituents. So you have a question from somebody in the audience who asks Representative Flood, why did you cut SNAP and healthcare research? Listen to Flood's response to this because it is so absurd.
Why did you cut SNAP and healthcare research?
We do not have unlimited money in the United States.
lot of boos. Well, okay, you stupid son of a bitch. You seem to have enough money for war. You seem to have no problem with giving the biggest tax breaks to the top 1%. But he wants to talk about fiscal responsibility when the big, beautiful bill is going to get us trillions of dollars more in debt. But when it comes to SNAP and healthcare research, oh no, we can't afford that. Good for those people out there booing. I'm so glad those people showed up. And this is another point in this Mike Flood disaster of a Q&A session in this town hall where the crowd just simply erupts after he lies, blatantly lies to his own constituents, saying that Republicans are protecting Medicaid.
And more than anything, I truly believe this bill protects Medicaid for the future. I believe it.
Think about that statement. By the way, God bless all those people out there booing. I don't blame them. At least 15 to 17 million people, maybe even more, are going to lose their medical benefits. And this guy wants to look you all in the face and say Republicans are protecting Medicaid in the long run. It's like a Republican, before they overturned Roe versus Wade, saying, listen, Republicans are going to protect a woman's right to get an abortion. That's what he's saying here. There is not one logical human being that is honest, that is not a partisan hack, that would say this big, beautiful bill is not going to kill people and that this big, beautiful bill is not going to cause millions and millions and millions of people that are going to lose their health care coverage. Not one. Mike Flood is lying to his own constituents. Why? Because he doesn't care. Because he knows that if he criticizes Donald Trump, if he criticizes the bill that he voted for, it's going to make him look horrible. And maybe he won't get reelected by the MAGA buffoons who put him in office in the first place. Now, I wanted to play for you one more question from this disaster of a town hall. And I got to give this person a ton of credit. I believe she's a lady who went up there, and very brave of her, because, again, she wants to hold her representatives accountable. We all should, Republican or Democrat. And she asked him about the $450 million being allocated for Alligator Alcatraz and ICE burning through money. And she accuses him of being a fascist, which I would say Mike Flood probably is. And I just want you to listen to this exchange, because I think this woman was so brave in stating the facts, and he's such a coward. Listen to this.
My question is fiscal. With 450 million FEMA dollars being reallocated to open Alligator Alcatraz and 600 million taxpayer FEMA dollars being used to now open more concentration camps and ICE burning through $8.4 million a day to illegally detain people, how much does it cost for fascism? How much do the taxpayers have to pay for a fascist country?
Now, unfortunately, Mike Flood didn't really address the question, but he said it's not fascism when you do a Q&A. It still could be fascism, and you still could do a Q&A and lie to the American people and lie to your own constituents. Listen, Mike Flood is a despicable MAGA Republican. He's your typical MAGA Republican that bows down to Donald Trump and wears the knee pads 24/7. He's your typical MAGA Republican that doesn't care about anybody else but himself. He doesn't care that all these people are going to lose their medical coverage. He doesn't care that people are struggling, that are living paycheck to paycheck, that are going to lose their food benefits. He doesn't care. All he cares about is remaining in power and doing whatever Donald Trump tells him to do and voting on whatever bill Donald Trump tells him to vote on. He doesn't care about his constituents. He doesn't care about the American people. He only cares about remaining in power himself because he's scared of Donald Trump and he has absolutely no backbone. He does this town hall and he thinks he's this big tough guy. Oh, look at me. I'm going to get up there and I'm going to answer all these questions. But, you know, you're really not that tough when you don't answer the questions and you lie. All right. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. By the way, we are also going to take some calls on the guest I had on yesterday, Richie Black. I know there were a lot of people that were sending me messages and emails that wanted to call in You have the opportunity to do that today. We didn't have the opportunity to do that yesterday, but you know me. You know this show. We take calls every day. Once in a blue moon, we don't. But that's what makes this show more unique than most other shows, is we always want the interaction from all of you, whether it be on social media, YouTube, whatever platform it is, or the phone lines, which are 702-221-7283. All right, we are going to start off with Carl. Carl is first up on PTL. Hey, Carl, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. I've been watching your show and listening to you for about 4 or 5 months now.
Thank you.
And I got to say, you tell it like it is. And every day when a MAGA caller calls into you, you hand their ass to him, and I love it.
Well, I appreciate that, Carl. You know, I'm at the point, Carl, where I'm done being nice. And I'm not a Democrat, but I'm very angry that Donald Trump was voted in a second time. And people on the left, people on the left have to stop being nice. We have to call these people for who they are and what they are. Let's call it for what it is, Carl. If you are at this point right now where you still support Donald Trump and you think he's doing a great job, then you have either an IQ in the single digits, you're ill-informed, racist, or you have a brain, but you're only voting because you're a partisan hack and you don't care what the damage that Donald Trump is doing to the country. I've had it with these people, okay? Yes, I'm frustrated with the people that voted for him, of course. But if you're at the point right now, 6 months into this, where you think Donald Trump is, and by the way, there's not a lot of people, he's got a 37% approval rating, so most people in this country do not approve of what he's doing, and some of those people, many of them are Republicans. But if you're at the point where you still support this guy and you think he's doing a good job, then you're an imbecile. I really don't know what else to say.
You hit the nail on the head, brother. And also, I love it when Darlene calls in and gets on to these people. I love that.
Well, Darlene's the best. Hey, Carl, if you don't mind me asking, where are you calling from?
The southern Ozarks of Missouri.
Missouri. Okay, cool. I've never been out there.
Yeah.
One of these days I'll have to get out there. But,
Well,
Carl, I appreciate your kind words, my friend. It means a lot. Thanks for listening. And because of people like you, that's why I continue to do what I do. So thank you, Carl.
All righty. You're welcome. Keep up the good work, brother.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Steve. Steve is next up on PTL. Hey, Steve, where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian. Thanks for taking my call. Calling
Sure.
from Illinois. This is probably the 7th time I've called you, probably.
All right.
What I have to say, and I joined kind of late, like half hour late today.
How dare you?
Did you possibly mention the owner of Trump Burger in Texas who might be deported?
Yeah,
no?
So listen, I heard about that story. And yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. If you want to give people a little bit more background on the story, you can, but I did hear about this.
So I don't know a lot. He's an immigrant who came in.
Correct.
Did his visa or green card expire?
Yeah.
Or something?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah.
And of course, Donald Trump isn't going to publicly say anything about this, right? Of course not.
Yeah. So what should happen is, because he voted for Trump and his policies, he should spend his time until his court date at Alligator Alcatraz. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
He voted for it. He should spend it there until his court date.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think.
It is.
That's what I think for a lot of these undocumented or not undocumented, but a lot of these migrants who maybe have people in their families that were sent to Alligator Alcatraz, which I don't condone. If you're dumb enough to vote for this guy and vote against your own interest, maybe you should be sent to Alligator Alcatraz. That's what I say, Steve.
Yeah, true. And I'll say one more thing, because I'm fired up. This is and I agree with you. If you still support Donald Trump, you're either a stupid individual who has no education, or if you do, you got through it with help, a lot of help, or you're a terrible person, because this guy is just an embarrassment to this country.
Agree.
I'm
well
fired
said,
up.
Steve.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay to be fired up. I want my callers to be fired up. You know why? Because I'm fired up. Every day when I get in front of this microphone, I tell it like it is. And sadly, some days I'm frustrated. I'm angry. Okay? And the reason why I'm frustrated and I'm angry has nothing to do with, me being on top of Stormy Daniels for 14 seconds. I'm sorry, that was a terrible joke. 702. Actually, you wouldn't be frustrated, right? Trump got the job done. Maybe she wasn't satisfied. I digress. People are now going to lose their appetite around lunchtime. I apologize for that. A little levity, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Brian. Brian is next up on PTL. What's up, Brian?
Now, wait a minute, Brian. This is not Brian from Texas. This is Herb. No, this is Herb, Brian. You never let me talk, man. You always want to hang on me up. You always want to cut me off. You never give me a chance to talk, Brian. Can I say something? Can I say something,
Yes,
please?
Herb. I'm sorry I pronounced your name wrong. Herb. I'm sorry, Herb. Go right ahead.
Brian,
Yes.
I want to know. Why do you hate on Trump so much? The man is doing all kinds of good stuff in this country right now.
What is he doing?
Why is your kitty ass so strong, man?
What is he doing? Tell me, what is he doing that you like, Herb?
The very first thing he's doing is my eggs are cheap. I don't pay an arm and a leg for eggs anymore. I don't even pay an arm and a leg for my gas.
All right. Well, Herb, let me just start off by saying the reason why I don't like Donald Trump, it's a laundry list. And if you've listened to this show, Herb, as I know you've done for a very long time, because I know you're very attentive and obviously you're extremely intelligent, you would know that I don't support adjudicated rapists or sexual abusers. I don't support 34-count felons. I don't support people who wake up in the morning and put 8 layers of orange makeup on, put on their girdle, and pretend like they're tough. I don't support misogynist pigs and people that can't be faithful to one woman in their entire life. I don't support people that lie who, in my personal opinion, and this is my opinion, who incite an insurrection and won't admit that they lost the 2020 election. I can go on, Herb, but I'm sure those are probably qualities that you like. Don't you like that, Herb?
I'm sorry, bro. I can't do it anymore. It's going to make me throw up, man. I can't. I wanted to, but I'll save some more for later on when Leonard comes. I'll save some more.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Okay, but here's what I want you to do. Brian, because I'll probably forget by tomorrow because there's always a million things floating around in my head. I want you to call in and say that you're Herb, okay? And Leonard, and if Leonard's not listening now, which for one time I hope he's not, we'll see if Leonard catches on, okay? And I want you, as Herb, to have a conversation with Leonard tomorrow, and we'll keep it on the download. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, it does, Brian. I was just, that really sounds fair. I was just going to call. I was just saying that, give people the update of what's going on down here in Texas still. I just want people to know. Well, Greg Abbott is full of it.
Oh, Greg Abbott is full of it.
Nobody's getting arrested. And these are civil warrants, not criminal warrants. They can't go to another state and get somebody. You can't remove them out of office. You can't do anything but just sit there in your wheelchair and wait until they come
Isn't
back.
it interesting,
That's all
Brian?
you can do.
And thank you for the call, Brian, or Herb. I appreciate it. Isn't it interesting that Greg Abbott wants elected Democrats to be arrested for not showing up for this virtual meeting, but supports a 34-count felon and a guy that's in the Epstein files? Doesn't want somebody who's in the Epstein files held to account, but if you don't show up to a virtual meeting and you're a Democrat, you have a D next to your name, we're going to arrest you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is who Greg Abbott is. He's a despicable human being. And let me add this about Greg Abbott, because we learned even more about Greg Abbott, obviously, after the Uvalde shooting. Hours after the Uvalde school shooting, which was absolutely horrific. And my heart always will break for those poor innocent children and the families that I'm sure are grieving every single day. Greg Abbott had a fundraising dinner that night. He did not cancel his dinner. In fact, he was still counting the funds that he was making while they didn't even finish counting all the dead bodies in that classroom. Ladies and gentlemen, that's who Greg Abbott is. He's despicable, and quite frankly, anybody in Texas that voted for him is as well. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Let's see. Let's go to Brett. Brett is next up on PTL. Hey, Brett, where are you calling from?
And I'm in West Palm Beach.
What's up, Brett?
Brian, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I can't even believe that they're even bothering with all this in Texas, trying to get the Dems back. And I mean, aren't they even taking care of these flood victims? I mean, there's a lot of heat going on about the flood victims. They're not taking care of them.
Yeah,
but they're worried about the Democrats coming back.
Well, but hear me out on this, Brett. Think about this for a moment. This is the party that wants to abolish FEMA. Donald Trump, okay, and Kristi Noem have been on the record. Most Republicans want to get rid of FEMA, but yet when there's a disaster under Joe Biden, Democrats have always been the ones that wanted to make these payments to these people, larger first-time payments. And then they claim, oh, well, Joe Biden only gave them $600. Yeah, because that's the maximum they're allocated to give. When Democrats always try to help people and give them more money, Republicans are always trying to lower funds for people that are struggling in this country, and while giving the biggest tax breaks to the top 1%. And Greg Abbott has the gall, for lack of a better term, to blame Democrats why people are not getting proper flood relief. I mean, it's unreal. It's despicable. You know what that's like?
When are these people going to wake up, Brian? When are these people going to wake up?
I don't think they are.
To go to the supermarket and see ground beef at $10 a pound, coffee at $15 a pound or whatever. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I see all these things that I'm buying on Amazon just going up and up and up. And then they come back and I look at social media and they're like, oh, the economy, everything's great. My bills are going down. The gas is cheap. And I'm like, what planet are you people living on? When are they going to wake up? Because it's only going to get worse as these tariffs, get some time to settle in and we really start seeing the effects of it.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. I agree with what you just said. Here's the thing. There are families in the United States of America, some immigrants who voted for Donald Trump, and some members of their family have been deported, many of them nonviolent criminals. And they say to themselves, boy, I didn't think Donald Trump was going to go this far. And then when all these people lose their medical coverage, they'll say, oh, I didn't think he was going to go this far. Some of these people will still support him because they're idiots. And
Brian,
they vote against their self-interest.
I live in West Palm Beach, and this is Trump country, to a certain extent, but English is a second language here. These people are all Hispanic immigrants, and I have a family that lives right next door to me, and they're great. We get along great, but they are hardcore Trumpers.
Yeah.
And they have people living in the guest house. There's a lot of guest house. Everybody has guest house here, but the people that live in the guest house, they are Trump fans too. And they barely speak English. And all I hear is Trump propaganda coming from their radios all day and all night. I don't understand it. I have no clue where they're coming from. I can't even have a conversation about politics with them because they'd be the first ones for him to kick out. They can't see that this guy does not like them, does not want them, does not need them. Well, unless, you're working in his properties, which he has plenty of them doing, but
you're right about that, my
story.
friend. I couldn't live in Florida to have to listen to Ron DeSantis speak every day. I'll tell you that, my friend. There are a lot of idiot politicians on the right. There are idiot politicians on the right everywhere, but particularly in Florida. My goodness. Thank you for the call, my friend. I appreciate you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next on PTL. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Brian, to the last caller, just because they're immigrants doesn't mean they're smart. They could be just as uneducated as American MAGA. I do have a few things I'd like to say. The first thing is Trump never deviates from his racist and BS book. If you notice, when he always says something like, he uses the word sir, like everyone says, sir, I love that idea. Or I'm always told by everyone, sir, he's lying. And it's all bullshit. He always uses the word sir when he's about to lie.
That's true.
The second thing I'd like to say is, I don't watch him often, but I respect what this kid does. Parker gets a job.
Yeah.
And I heard a lot of nonsense out of these MAGA callers that call in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm bringing this up because this has to be the most uneducated, ignorant MAGA that I ever heard. And caller stated, well, what had Biden done in his 4 years? And Parker went through his whole thing, giving out all the, like the Science and Chip Act and the, all these other, like the PACT Act and on and on. But when he said the Science and Chip Act,
yeah,
the caller went, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it was a 60-year-old lady, mind you.
Yeah.
And she said, whoa, you mean to tell me that Biden hired scientists to study potato chips? That was the answer when Parker said the Science and Chip Act.
I will say this. I
You
will say.
think about that.
Yeah,
Brian.
no, you're
You
right.
think about that,
You're
and
right.
you say to yourself, how do you reason with these morons?
You can't. Well, you can't. And I'll say this about Parker, who I think he's great. He's an extremely intelligent young man. I am amazed at how educated he is at his age, so knowledgeable. And he's great at what he does. I'm going to tell you this right now. If I get 2 or 3 MAGA callers a day, I'm usually exasperated. He does it for 6 hours a day. And I texted him the other day and I said, man, I don't know how you do it. You know, a lot of you guys call into this show every day and you say, Brian, I don't know how you do it every day. I don't know how Parker does it. He does 6 hours a day of just debating MAGA. I mean, you want to talk about mentally draining. So Parker does a great job. But you're right. You're right, Mark. You can't reason with a lot of these people. They're impossible to reason with. But listen, if there's any MAGA Trumpers out there that want to call in, maybe the real Herb would like to call in today. I open up that invitation to him. I believe, wow, this is an honor. This is an honor, ladies and gentlemen. I never thought I'd be saying this on the radio show because I wanted to introduce the very intelligent and the very attractive Marjorie Taylor Greene to the show. Marjorie, are you there?
Oh, Brian, I'm not Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am just from Alabama.
Oh, you're not Marjorie
now,
Taylor.
me
You sound
and
like Marjorie. I'm
Goober,
sorry.
we come down from West Virginia, and we parked our trailer down here in Alabama, down in this holler here.
So can I call you? I understand you're not Marjorie. Can I call you Three Toe? Is that okay today, Marjorie? Is that all right?
No, I don't like that.
Well, I don't care. I don't care. So Three Toe.
I don't know if I told you that. I am Christianity, and I just don't like talking about people like that.
Oh, okay. So why would you vote for Donald Trump then? Why did you vote for Trump then if you don't like people talking like that?
Well, I'm going to tell you. I don't know if I told you or not, but I am Christianity.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, that makes it better.
Well, I just could not have that joy and that cackling lady.
Cackling.
That's a black woman.
You didn't like her cackling. That was worse than rape.
She was with that guy, that she probably was
Marjorie, be honest with me.
Well, wait a minute.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Now, hold on a minute.
Oh, hold on.
Now, she was with that their man that they called that their tampon, their Tim, and he
Marjorie, you're rambling on. I don't know what you're saying. Do you have a Trump Bible? Did you buy a Trump Bible?
You know what happened, Brian? I'm going to tell you. Now, I told you, I don't know if I told you, I'm Christianity now.
You have said that, yes.
You know them round things that's on them trailers there?
What does that have to do with... Marjorie, what does that have to do with my question? I don't understand.
Well, I'm going to tell you. Hold on a minute. Them tars that's on your trailer there,
Yes, I do.
Well,
yes.
Goober, if you don't leave them over there, I'm going to get you.
All right, Marjorie, what's your education? Did you go to high school?
No, I did not.
Oh, so what?
I didn't.
So you didn't even go to high school. So you're homeschooled.
I don't know if I told you this, but I'm Christianity.
You did say that.
Now,
yes. You did say that. Yes.
Them there tars, they have
I don't
to
know.
have
I don't know
them.
what you're talking about. have no
them
idea what you're saying.
triangle things there under them
Are you
cars
speaking English?
so they won't. Hold on a minute, just a minute. Because if you don't put them triangle things down there under them tires,
Somebody said, Marjorie, somebody said, all right, hold on with the cars.
You know.
All right, hold on with the cars. Hold on.
Possession in there.
I can't get her to stop talking.
Hey, Gerber, get back in there.
I can't get her to stop talking.
And it was rolling down this little hill. And I thought,
Marjorie, I can't take it anymore.
Jesus.
I can't take it anymore, Marjorie.
Jesus.
Marjorie, thank you for calling in. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore.
Now, wait just a minute. This is important.
You're Christian. I understand.
This is real important. I'll make it real pretty fast, okay?
Okay.
Now, Goober, he was in that
because I'm getting
trailer
suicidal,
there,
please.
And it rolled down this little hill. And I thought, oh, my Lord Jesus.
Can you make out one word she's saying? I don't understand what she's talking about, Numchuck. What is she saying?
Everything that I love is in that trailer. Now, Goober was in that trailer. And my Trump
everything
Bibles
she loves is in a trailer.
Everything was in that trailer.
Your Trump
now,
Bibles.
Goober, he was okay. I didn't give a damn about Goober, but you know, I don't know if I told you this, but I'm Christianity now.
You did say that.
But
are you transgender?
Yeah, I just wanted you to know that I am Christianity.
Thank you.
Oh, and one more thing, real quick, real
yeah,
quick.
because you're really quick.
We went on down the holler there.
Yeah.
And
I can't take it anymore.
read
Cut her
in
off.
my
Cut her off.
Trump Bible there.
No, I can't do it anymore. Cut her off. Marjorie, thank you for the call. I don't know how much of that I could take, but something is going to tell me that you probably voted for Donald Trump. Good luck with you and your trailer. Have a nice day. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Wow. Let's go to Damon. Damon is calling in next from Las Vegas. Damon, what's going on?
What's going on, Brian? I volunteer for phone call security because these neo-maxi Zoom dweebies, they're about to start coming at you and trying to waste your airtime. And that right there wasn't nothing but jerky boys. And I sat here and listened to it, all of it, because I was on hold, so I ain't had no choice. So you can't waste your valuable time, Brian. You got to get that message out there. Cut them jerky boys off. That person was bullshitting you.
I like the jerky boys, though. I like the jerky boys back in the day.
I get it, though, Brian, but the thing is, you got to get the real thing out there instead of this person trying to be funny and laughing with his boys.
That's true.
You get what I'm saying? Get that message out there, Brian. You got too much to say, and the people you get bringing on do, too. We ain't got time to play with them.
So what's on your mind today, Damon? What's on your mind
today? On my mind today, Brian, do you want my translation of what Trump just said about black people?
Yes.
Okay. Trump them always mention something, then do it, like pardons and stuff, etc. Now, the thing is, when he said that these people in the inner cities, we all know what that means. Same thing as urban, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what he's saying is we about to make these lazy Negroes get out there in them fields. Problem with that is Negroes got money and jobs already. They don't need that. So with DEI, whatever rules they making it up as they go, Brian.
Damon, can I ask you something? Do you feel like what Donald Trump said, the audio that I played about immigrants, is similar to how they used to talk about your enslaved ancestors? Would you say it's very similar verbiage?
Well, the thing is about immigrants is this. Immigrants still as good as they are at their job. They can't touch us, Brian. Mm-hmm. We's the reason why this country became the richest country in the world. They machine was the shit. And afterwards, what we got, the NFL, the NBA. Imagine them in the field picking cotton. Mm-hmm. Shit.
Well, I'm with you. I'm with you. No, I'm with you, Damon, and I appreciate the phone call. And yeah, Donald Trump, I played the audio for you. He said they don't get a bad back because if they get a bad back, they die. That's what he was saying about these immigrants working in the fields. I mean, he's saying the racist part out loud. And yes, Damon and others and friends of mine that happen to be black have said that this is the way they talked about our enslaved ancestors. And Donald Trump is saying it out loud. It's despicable and it's disgusting. Damon, I love you. Thank you for the phone call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Jeff. Jeff is calling in Las Vegas as well. Hey, Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? You were talking about how Trump was firing the Bureau of Labor Statistics woman. You have to go back to Donald Trump's relationship with Leona Helmsley.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember that name.
I do.
Okay. So she was called the Queen of Mean. And I think it was the New York Post or the Inquirer. Might have been Murdoch's New York Post that came up with that. I'm not sure, but so he was she went to trial for tax fraud, and I think served 3 years in Club Fed. But he was the one that actually had a limousine come pick her up after the trial because he was interested in buying one of her buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's been kind of the way he sees the media and sees life, is through Leona Helmsley's eyes.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest here. This is the Donald Trump playbook. When numbers come out that are good, he praises the person who put out the numbers. When numbers come out that are bad, he will either fire that person or attack that person and not take any responsibility and blame it on either the person who put the numbers out or blame it on Joe Biden or Barack Obama or a Democrat. It's the MAGA Donald Trump playbook. That's what he does.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that he will not take no responsibility for anything being wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's the way Leona Helmsley actually a maid spilled wine on the carpet. She had the maid clean up the carpet mess, and then she fired the maid.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way he views. That's kind of the way he views people that are below him as slave servants.
No, you're right. I agree. And by the way, keep in mind that Donald Trump is the guy who had plenty of undocumented immigrants working for him over the years. Now it's so bad. You're right, Jeff. I appreciate your call, my friend. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Teresa. Teresa next up on PTL. Hey, Teresa, where are you calling from?
You're right, Jeff. I appreciate your call, my friend.
Mississippi.
All right. Do me a favor and lower your radio because we have a little bit of a delay here. So that way the listeners can hear you clearly, Teresa, okay?
Yes.
There you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. Teresa, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind today?
Yes, I was calling. I'm not a Donald Trump supporter.
Okay.
That's the truth.
Yep.
And I was just thinking about who created us. When we all created by one spirit, God.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has different explanations of how we were all created. I'm not an extremely spiritual or religious person, but I'm also not a Scientologist. I'm somewhere in the middle.
Right. Well, the first two commandments is the two greatest that I enjoy. Loving God. God is the only person that I serve and kneel down and pray to.
Yeah, and listen,
no other man.
I have no problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with not people like you, but I have a problem with evangelical Christians who talk about God 24/7 and they support Donald Trump.
Right. But I was getting to that point, you know, where he said, love your neighbor. That don't mean our next door neighbor. That means people all over the world.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they would, if Jesus was here right now, I'm just saying, I'm just a disciple, that would they deport him? Because he would be an immigrant too, right?
That's true. Yeah. Listen, everything. Listen, I'm not as religious as you are, clearly, but correct me if I'm wrong here. Jesus' teachings, as you just pointed out, is treat everybody as equals, regardless of skin color or sexuality, and help the poor and help the needy. That goes against everything that the Republican Party stands for today in 2025. Everything.
And I'm like, they're always talking about they love kids and kids this.
Well, apparently Donald Trump loves kids. Apparently Donald Trump loves kids in a different way than maybe the average person does, as we know.
Right. So, I mean, you took away snaps from people to feed their food. Like I said, I'm in Mississippi and we are already poor. So if you take that away and then after school meals or stuff like that, and you love kids, how? I'm like, I see all of these people, these town hall meetings, and it kind of gives me some courage.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
it's not like, and this is no knock. I'm just saying, I'm a African American, so and I see a lot. I'm proud to see a lot of white people up top saying what we all are feeling. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly
they know
what you're
that these are Republicans are not for us. They're for the rich and
Oh,
powerful.
yeah. There's no doubt about that, my dear, and I appreciate the call. You mentioned kids, protecting kids. Every single time there is a mass shooting, and one is too many, but every single time there is a mass shooting, and we have our innocent kids getting massacred, MAGA Republicans will say thoughts and prayers, and they'll say now's not the time to make this about politics. Every day I hear them talking about transgenders and how teachers are indoctrinating our kids and how drag queen reading is the worst thing in the world. And let me ask you all a question. Do MAGA Republicans talk more about gun control, which is, by the way, the second leading cause of death in children? Or do you hear them talking more about the threat that drag queens are? This is the MAGA Republican Party today. They don't care about kids. They certainly don't care about kids because they put AR-15s in the hands of their own 5-year-olds. They don't do anything about gun control. They want to take medical benefits away from millions of Americans, but they say they care about kids. They claim they care about the unborn, but apparently once they're born, they don't care. It's ridiculous. They're the biggest hypocrites on the planet. They're despicable. They're disgusting. Do I think every Republican feels this way? No, but I think a lot of them do. And Donald Trump is one of them. Let's go to Terry. Terry next on PTL. Hey, Terry, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. Good afternoon. By the way, thanks for calling that guest out that you had yesterday. I felt that in a way he was not well informed at all, especially regarding the January 6th and the people who were arrested. It really, to me, it comes down to law and what's right and what's wrong. And what I don't understand is why he totally ignored the fact that those people breached the barricade and were trespassing.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times you have to say it to people like that.
This is how I try to explain it to these morons who defend the January 6ers. When they use the claim, well, they were let in. First of all, there were only a few officers that let people in. And the reason why they did that, think about this for a minute. And to anybody who's not very intelligent, they don't understand this. But if you're one officer with a gun and you have hundreds of people, you have two choices. You either take out your gun and start shooting people, and not only will people die, but you'll probably be one of those people that'll die too, or you just let them in. They had two choices, and they testified to that. And these MAGA morons on the right make it seem like, oh, they let him in like it was a tourist visit. No, they didn't. When it's one police officer and a mob of people, sometimes you have no choice. Taking out your gun and just spraying bullets, first of all, you only have so many. And second of all, it might not work. And you don't want to kill people in that situation unless you feel like your life is in jeopardy. The better way to go, sadly, is just to let them go in and call for help. And that's exactly what they did.
I couldn't agree with you more, Brian, with what you're saying. And especially with all the guilt that we put on all of those officers if they had to use their guns and that kind of thing. And the last thing I want to say is I just want him to understand that I, as a white person, do not feel persecuted because I'm white. That crap that he was spewing there was ridiculous.
Those are white supremacist Nick Fuentes talking points, and I will not tolerate it on this show. And yes, there were times in the show yesterday where I thought I got a few messages from a few people that said it sounds like you're interviewing David Duke. I really felt that way at times. I was very uncomfortable yesterday. And then he started bringing up my religion, which was completely irrelevant to the conversation. I know why he was doing that, but I wouldn't let him take over the conversation with that, because I don't care what your religion is and I don't care what the color of your skin is. I want everybody to be treated equally. Clearly, he doesn't. Clearly.
Thanks for taking my call, Brian.
Well, thank you, my dear. It's good to hear from you. I appreciate your call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Will. Hi, Will. Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, calling from New Jersey.
New Jersey. What's up, Will?
New Jersey. Listen, I wanted to talk about, I mean, there's 5 million things that we could talk about this president, all the despicable things that he has done. But I wanted to reach out and talk something that affects everybody, and that's the economy. What he has done and what will happen with this awful bill that's been passed. I almost feel like people don't realize, and it's obvious from callers that I've heard from the right, the tsunami that's going to come in terms of price increase on energy, lack of jobs, layoffs, increased grocery bills, cost of living, healthcare. People, the old saying is people vote with their wallets. I just wanted you to touch and just say what you feel, what will be coming. I mean, we're only 7 months in, not even. What's going to be a year from now?
Well, that's what I talk about. Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't have a really positive answer for you, unfortunately, my friend.
No, and I know it's going to hurt a lot of people.
We are 6 or 7 months, as you said, into this administration. He's already not giving thousands of people due process. We already know that he's covering up the fact that he's in the Epstein files and he doesn't care about the victims. And he's actually giving preferential treatment to one of the biggest child sex traffickers ever in this country. We're at a time where inflation is headed in the wrong direction. The jobs report that came out was the worst jobs report we had in 5 years. The last one, guess what? Under the Trump administration, December of 2020. The FAA is a mess. We've had all these near misses and crashes, and people are struggling. Local businesses here, I know, are shutting down. There are businesses all across the country. The country's in shambles as far as I'm concerned. And
I agree.
It's only been 7 months. So your question is, where are we going to be a year from now?
Yeah,
I think it's going to get worse.
That's what I worry about.
It's going to get worse.
I feel like it's going to be 10 times worse. And these people, the thing that you hear a lot of stuff, people hurt with the hard knocks of life. Well, you got to be informed. You got to know what's going to happen. This is just this is just the appetizer. The main meal, and it's not going to be a meal because a lot of people are going to starve. They're going to lose their houses. They're going to lose their jobs. They're not going to lose health care. What is going to happen a year from now? What is the uproar going to be? Where are people going to be at? Like, what is the breaking point that these people realize everything he is doing is the opposite? It's like he's almost doing it on purpose. He wants to tank the economy. And, like I said, there's a million things that this person has done that's despicable, that he should have been out of politics years ago. He should be in jail. But my biggest thing is, what covers us most is the economy, people's wallet. What is going to happen when these people can't afford to pay their bills, to pay their food, to feed their kids, to take them to the doctor? What are these people going to do? Are they still going to defend this man?
I'm going to tell you something, and it breaks my heart to say this, whether you're a MAGA supporter or not. There's a lot of people.
I'm not.
There's a lot of people. I know you're not. But I'm just saying in general, there's a lot of people in this country that are going to lose their lives because they're not going to get they're not going to get the healthcare benefits that they need desperately. In this case, Medicaid. When you take 15 or 17 million people and you strip them of Medicaid, and clearly the overwhelming majority of these people can't afford healthcare. They can't afford to buy insulin. They can't. What do you think is going to happen? First of all, it's going to cost the taxpayer more money. Why? Because a lot of these people, this is how stupid these Republicans are. What happens when you take sick people off their medications? I'm not yelling at you, sir. I'm just frustrated.
No, I know.
What happens when
I'm as frustrated as.
What happens when a diabetic? What happens when a diabetic loses, can't afford insulin anymore? Well, one of two things: either they're going to die or they're going to go to the emergency room. What happens when someone can't afford their medication for whatever it is? It could be mental illness. It could be their heart issues. It could be blood pressure. It could be anything. They're going to go to the hospital, and and these people don't have health care benefits. The hospitals are going to take them in. It's going to cost Americans more money, but these MAGA Republicans are so stupid, they don't understand that. These people are going to die, and in the end, it's going to cost the taxpayer more money because they're not going to have the health care that they deserve. They're not going to be able to live. They're going to get more sick, and eventually they're going to die, probably in a lot of hospitals. It drives me crazy how stupid these Republicans, they think they're saving money when 15 million people lose their medical coverage. No, they're remaining healthy. These people, they need the health care. They're sick, not to mention the people that are not even sick, but they're not going to be able to get their physical. They're not going to be able to see the eye doctor. They're not going to be able to go to the dentist. Think about it.
No, it's frustrating on so many levels. And like I said, I just wanted to, reach out to the biggest thing that affects pretty much everybody in this country, because, you can go into all the other things and talk about that that are despicable beyond comprehension. But, just talking dollars and cents, the effects, it's like a ripple. You throw a stone into the lake, it's a ripple effect, and it's going to be a domino effect, and it's going to affect people of all walks of life.
I agree.
Everybody.
I agree with you, my friend. Stay safe out there.
And I wish that there was more foresight, but unfortunately, people live in their own little worlds on their phones and little echo chambers, and they listen to what they want.
You're right.
And unfortunately, we can't even, even the news is compromised.
Couldn't disagree with you on anything you said, my friend. I'm with you. Stay safe out there in Jersey. I used to go to Atlantic City in my 20s. A lot of good people out there in New Jersey. 702-221-7283. I love it when we get calls all over the world. This caller is from London, and his name is Andy. Hey, Andy, what's going on?
Hi, Brian. Yes, me again. I totally agree with your last caller. It does seem like Trump wants to bring American society to their knees for some reason. I can't fathom it, to be honest. But I did want to address a few points about your guest yesterday.
Sure.
I've never heard the most absurd rewriting of American history in my life. It was absolutely absurd, but about sort of how the whites have been oppressed, should I say, over the years. Ridiculous.
But Andy, there's a lot of people that think like him in the United States. They're called white supremacists.
Oh yeah, I've heard them. He suffers, I think, from chronic white privilege. That's what I believe. He said America's heading for a dystopia. Well, it's now quite possibly because Trump's in power, for God's sake. And he's causing all this strife within America. It's ridiculous. And one final point. He said, I never saw any other coverage of January 6th riots. I couldn't believe that. My jaw dropped when he said that.
There's no way he can be telling the truth. There's no way.
No, and then 5 minutes later, he said, I saw videos of Antifa changing into uniforms under a tree. So
funny, he saw the footage of Ashley Babbitt getting shot. By the way, she deserved what she got. I hate to say it, but it's true. He seems to want to talk about Ashley Babbitt, but notice that he doesn't want to talk about the Capitol police officers, several of them who committed suicide. Brian Sitnick, who died the next day. Some of those officers who did survive have traumatic brain injury. Notice how these people don't want to talk about them, but they only want to talk about Ashley Babbitt, the moron, because that's what she was, a moron. I respect her service to the country, but that day she was a moron. She broke the law, and what she was doing, she put herself in harm's way. There was a gun pointed at her. It didn't deter her from stopping, which makes her a moron, and her stupidity cost her her own life. Very simply put, she was a moron, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and there are plenty of them who will just follow her in the same way. It's ridiculous. And he, like I say, the guy, he just kept getting himself into pretzels.
Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting, my friend, that when a black person gets shot by a cop, sometimes unarmed, and sometimes, in some cases, running from police, and this has happened. Every MAGA Republican will say you should have complied, but when it comes to the white Ashley Babbitt, who stormed the Capitol and was an insurrectionist, they say it was the police officer's fault and it was murder. But if a black person is running from a cop unarmed and he gets shot in the back, should have complied. I find that very interesting, don't you, Andy?
Absolutely. Well, interesting and disgraceful to even think that, He's got a warped reality, this guy.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's dangerous. It's dangerous because when you have that way of thinking and you have a bunch of white supremacists across the country that are so far right, Nick Fuentes type people, it's very, very dangerous. It's more than just a racist person. This is a guy that brings protests in this country, some of which turn violent. This is a guy who thinks you can defend someone who beat a cop on January 6th because you don't like what the government is doing. That's not the way our laws work. He just doesn't want law.
No.
He just wants people to do whatever the hell they want to do.
Absolutely. He was saying the laws need to be changed. It's like, what? To suit you and your white nationalist friends.
Andy, you're 100% correct, my friend. I'm with you, brother. I love you guys out there in London, and I appreciate your call. You take care, okay?
Keep up the great work.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers, Brian.
Appreciate that. Love to hear listeners out there calling in from London. Let's go to Frank. Frank is next on PTL. Hey, Frank.
Brian, thank you for taking and I hope you're doing good. Did you hear? I don't know what I saw a blog on Facebook that Donald Trump should go after the homeless people.
Go after the who?
Hello?
The who?
The homeless people.
Oh, homeless people. Well, that's what Republicans have been doing for decades. We know that. Look at what they did in L.A. Thank you for the call, by the way, Frank. Look at what they did in L.A. Look at when Gavin Newsom does everything he can, and maybe it's not enough, and gives these people housing, motels in some instances that aren't being used. Republicans say it's wasteful spending. They don't want to come up with anything to help these homeless people, right? They want to take away any benefit they can get, whether it be a soup kitchen, shelter, food stamps. Yeah, I mean, this is what Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans do. They attack the poor, they attack the needy, homeless people, and those that live paycheck to paycheck. It's sick and it's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I think we're going to Kim. Kim is next up on PTL. Hey, Kim, what's going on?
Hey, Brian, it's Boo Boo from chat. I just want to say my invitation to talk to Herb is still open. I left you that message on TikTok, but I called for a reason. I mean, you were talking weeks ago about gun control. I just wanted to mention, first, I agree with the other caller from Jersey. Unfortunately, like you and I have both said before, until it happens to you, you're not going to get it. And I mentioned to you in my DM with you that those of us with children and adult children on Medicaid are now in a scramble before the middle of next year to satisfy the needs of their what's called an ISP so that they don't get dropped.
Right.
But I wanted to talk about the gun control thing.
Sure.
We're not going to fight the NRA. Very difficult. But something that started in New Jersey, and it started last year, and I was unaware of it until it happened. So I've spoken to you about my son, and he's been hospitalized a number of times. When my son met my husband, he was from Virginia. He owned guns. In order to bring the guns up here to New Jersey, because I wouldn't live in Virginia, he had to get a gun permit from New Jersey to transport them up here. I twisted his arm while pregnant and said there will be no guns in this house. So he did get rid of the guns, but he still had his gun card. And up until March of last year, when my son was last hospitalized and the police came here, they took my husband's gun card. And I said to them, why are you taking his gun card? He doesn't have guns, because they would search the house every time they would come to take him to the hospital. They said, well, this is what we're doing now. If anybody in the household with somebody with registered mental illnesses, I says, what do you mean registered? Well, if the police come, or if they're hospitalized, or if a psychiatric service place registers them to not have a gun, they cannot have a gun. I said, so you're saying to me, my husband cannot ever own a gun as long as my son is in the house? And they said, yes. And I said, well, what about my son?
Right.
And they said, no. When he goes through a background check, that is going to come up, and he will never be able to own a gun. Now, I'm thrilled about that. But, 30, 40 years down the road, if things change and he wanted to own a gun, he cannot own a gun.
I want to also
specific to New Jersey.
Yeah, and I want to also bring this up, by the way, and I'm glad you brought that to our attention. I don't know if you heard about this story earlier today. Speaking of gun violence, 5 soldiers were shot at Fort Stewart in Georgia. Suspected shooter is an Army sergeant who was in custody. Yes. We're glad he's in custody. I don't know if there are any fatalities. My understanding is that there are not, thank God. It seems like every single day we have shootings like this. And MAGA Republicans want to talk about black on black crime and look at all the stuff that's going on in Chicago, but they don't want to talk about the real issue. I don't care what the color of your skin is. There's way too much gun violence in this country, and MAGA Republicans or Republicans in general don't want to do anything about it. They literally want to do. In fact, they want to make it easier for people to get their hands on guns. So don't listen to any Republican when they tell you they care about the health and the safety of you, your family, and your kids. Don't listen to a Republican when they say, look at all the violence under Joe Biden. The history of Republicans is they don't want to do anything. And I remember the Sandy Hook shooting, as I'm sure you do. Terrible school shooting in Connecticut. Barack Obama was president at the time. He begged and pleaded with Republicans who had the House and the Senate at that time to pass some gun legislation. They refused to do so. And after something like that happens and Republicans don't want to do anything about it, there's no hope.
Correct. And I'm one that believes that there is a strong tie between mental illness and these gun incidences. So when this happened to us last March, I was thrilled. I couldn't say more. I was overjoyed to have them take a gun card and say to me, my son will never own a gun.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that to our attention, my dear. I really appreciate that. And the topic of gun control, I don't blame Republicans for everything, but let's be honest. In my lifetime, there's one party that has decided to try to do whatever they can. And then there's another side called Republicans that wear AR-15 pins after a mass shooting and want to make it easier for people to get their hands on guns. So don't listen to any Republican when they say they care about your safety and well-being. They don't. Don't listen to any Republican when they say they are pro-police, when they have no problem with Donald Trump pardoning January 6th terrorists who beat cops, some with their own batons. Don't listen to MAGA Republicans when they say they care about your health when they want to take away your Medicaid. Stop listening to these lying right-wing turds, because that's what they are. Let's go to Jack. Jack is next on PTL. Hey, Jack, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. It's Jack from Rhode Island again, the one who keeps calling about running for Congress up here.
Yes,
but
sir.
I just wanted to say a couple things first and then ask your opinion on something.
Okay.
I wanted to say that I feel bad for people like Marjorie who don't have an education and can't quite, discern fact from what she's being told on places like Fox News. And I wanted to say, Damon, I'm with you, brother. And that brings me into what I wanted to say yesterday. But how many people like that guest Richie are out there, thinking whites are being persecuted and there's a white genocide, saying Ashley Babbitt was a hero, which is absolutely foul and disgusting. Like, do you think that because Donald Trump pardoned like 1,400 of the Jan 6ers, do you think that maybe he's using them as these HSI and ICE agents that are rounding people up?
Here's why I can't give you a definitive no. Because most of these agents that I've seen in videos are not only not identifying themselves, but they're not identifying their exactly. That's what I was going to say. They're wearing masks. Now, do you see police officers? I'm not talking about during COVID. Do you see police officers out there on the streets wearing masks? I don't. Why don't police officers wear masks? And these idiots like Homan and others say, well, they're wearing it for their protection. What the hell are you talking about? A little scarf over your face protects you? Police officers aren't wearing them. I'll tell you why they're doing it. I believe they're doing it because they don't want to be identified, because I believe a lot of these people are not ICE agents. That's why.
And they're not law enforcement.
Correct. You know how dangerous that is? It's insane.
It's very dangerous because I myself, before I moved to Rhode Island, had a license to conceal and carry. And I know for a fact if someone popped out of a van that was unmarked and people were coming at me with masks, I would have no problem, drawing my weapon. Yeah. And this is going to lead to death. This will happen.
Oh, you're right.
We will be on this show talking about how someone with a license to carry shot and killed someone who was claiming to be ICE
my friend,
or HSI.
I've been saying that for months. You make such a great point. And anybody who listens to this show regularly knows I've been saying that if some of these alleged ICE agents do not identify themselves, break into somebody's home, or start arresting people without identifying themselves as ICE agents, people are going to lose their lives. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. I completely agree with you, and I've been making that argument forever. All right, we got Miss Johnson next on the line. Hello, Miss Johnson.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. I had to pull over because I really didn't tune into your show at the beginning. I'm just now listening. But I want to talk to you about a little bit today, what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then mostly everything I want to talk about, if you don't mind, was your show yesterday.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I honestly almost regurgitated about 10 times because when that young man sat there, first of all, he said he didn't vote for Donald Trump. I believe he did. Okay.
Well, he voted for him in 2016. He claims he didn't vote for him.
And I believe he just voted for him again. And then I couldn't believe what he said, that Caucasian people or the people he knows and has heard, that they're upset because when they go through things, nobody is there to say anything to them.
Right.
So he made reference to certain things like slavery and a whole bunch of other stuff. And this is what I said. I wanted to call it so bad, but you didn't do it yesterday. And I'm kind of glad you didn't, because sometimes people may say the wrong thing, even on the air. And I do respect you, and I respect your show.
Well, that's nice of you to
If
say.
I was his mother, I would begin to get on my knees and pray, because he was a total embarrassment.
Well, he sounded like let's call it the truth, Miss Johnson. He sounded like he was a Ku Klux Klan member. At times, the conversation he got extremely uncomfortable for me. And I'm going to say something that, how should I phrase this? I've been in the radio business for 22 years. And there's one person in particular that I had to work with in my 22-year career that thought exactly like this guy, Richie Black, thinks. And I had to sit next to this person and work with this person for years. Imagine how difficult that was for me. And I was put in a very difficult situation. I'm so glad I'm not in that situation anymore. No, I'm not talking about Numchuck. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Diane. Diane is next up on PTL. What's up, Diane?
Hi, Brian.
Hey, what's going on?
I would like to say something about Medicare. I'm on. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm on Medicare, and this is for Herb, too. Is he aware that the way the Republicans are spending the big, beautiful bill is once it reached the debt ceiling, sequestration is going to kick in, which is going to cut about $500 billion in Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
And we can all lose our Medicare benefits.
Yes.
So is he aware of that?
I don't think he is. And I'm going to be honest with you, Diane. I don't think a lot of Trump supporters are aware of much of anything. And they're the ones who say that we're woke. To me, the definition of wokeness is being awake, being aware of your surroundings and being aware. Many people on the far right are not woke. Many people on the far right are ignorant and are ill-informed. So if they want to call us woke for being awake and being aware, then go ahead and call me woke until the cows come home. They are ignorant fools, and they are right-wing buffoons. And many of these people are going to learn the hard way. But here's the problem. It's not just them. It's people like you. It's people like me. It's everyday ordinary Americans and anti-Trumpers that are suffering as well because of the stupidity of so many people out there that voted this 34-count felon orangutan adjudicated rapist back in office. And now let's add pedophile to that list because we know he's in the Epstein files. That's not even up for grabs anymore. It's not even an argument. He's in the Epstein files.
Definitely he is.
Yep. Well, thank you for the call, Diane. I appreciate you. And I'm glad there are people like you out there listening. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. Hey, Paul, what's going on?
Hey, buddy. You know, I was going back to your caller about 3 callers ago. And, you know, the thing, I think you're right. This whole gun thing is ridiculous. What I think what saddened me the most out of everything is the lack of empathy from people that pretend to be Christians that go to church every Sunday. I spoke to a guy, I had 2 different people on my TikTok live last night. And I said, tell me why sexually abusing Gene Carroll wasn't a red line. And he goes, well, there's other factors to consider. And I said, okay, What if he had done it to your mom? Well, then I wouldn't have voted for him. And see, I think that's the problem, Brian. It's like, okay, well, Officer Sitnick wasn't your dad. The officers on January 6th wasn't your grandpa. Jean Carroll wasn't your mom. The 25 women he abused wasn't your aunt. The 13-year-old Katie Johnson that he molested wasn't your daughter. So they frankly don't care. And it's really sad. The same thing with all these school shootings. We're going to do thoughts and prayers, and in 36 hours, we're going to go right back to doing the Epstein files. I don't know how we fix it as a society. I don't like saying that. And I really feel like and I know we talked about this briefly, the only way out of this is for us to go on a general strike and shut the country down. But I don't think that this country has the willingness to do it, because I don't think that we want to be uncomfortable as a society.
One of my biggest issues, and I have plenty of them, a laundry list of MAGA Republicans, is that they only care if it happens to them. I'm even going to throw in Liz Cheney, who I do have some respect for, and her father, Dick Cheney, who I don't have as much respect for. But anyway, that's here nor there. They were both voting against gay marriage, and they were anti-gay. They were against homosexuality for years. And then they found out that a member of their family was a lesbian. And then they changed their tune. And I said, okay, good. I'm glad you admitted you were wrong. I'm glad you're on the right side now. However, why does it take that? And I'll give you the answer, Paul, and I think you know it. Because they don't understand what it's like to live through the lens of somebody else other than their own. That's the problem with these MAGA Republicans. They don't know what it's like. The richest of the rich don't know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. Those that need Medicaid, many of the people already have health care benefits. The people that are voted for this big, beautiful bill, they don't need Medicaid. They don't know what it's like to have to ask for food stamps because you can't afford to put food on the table for yourself and your loved ones. They only do this stuff when it happens to them. It's my biggest criticism of MAGA Republicans. And of course, they don't have empathy.
Isn't it rich that these people claim to praise Jesus and love thy neighbor as thyself, but the only person they care about is thyself? Isn't that rich?
It's a lie, isn't it?
Isn't that ironic? One more last thing. The one thing that I hear from Republicans every year is, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? See, and I think that's the problem. Let's say, Brian, that you and I are better off. Okay, let's say that I got a raise, or I paid less taxes, or I have more money in my bank account. What if people can't afford a house? What if people can't start a small business? What if they can't afford health care? What if their jobs are gone? Oh, I'm only voting for myself. See, and I think that's the problem is Republicans, like you said, it goes back to that. It's selfishness. Me, and screw everybody else. That's the problem. I don't know how you teach empathy in this country.
I don't think empathy is something you could teach, but I also do believe sometimes it's how you're raised. So it's not necessarily teaching. Yeah. For example, I can speak from personal experience. Growing up at a very young age, of course, I grew up with my sister, my mom and dad, who are still married to this day, and my late great grandmother, Eleanor. And I saw the love that, my parents, of course, have for each other, but the love my dad had for my grandmother and how, my parents and my grandmother, the love they had for me and my sister. And it made me realize how important family is, but it also made me realize that you don't only just care about your family, but you also care about others. The empathy that members of my family have for people that they've never even met before. And I see their empathy. And growing up at a young age, I don't necessarily say it was taught, because it's just the way my family is. They're good people. They have empathy for others. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. Never really talked about this on the show. Not everybody in your family is good. I'm very lucky that I have wonderful parents. I've had great grandparents in my life. Sadly, they've all passed away. I wish that wasn't the case. But I have an uncle that I do not talk to. The uncle that I do not talk to has no empathy for people. He's a horrible human being. He's tried to take advantage of my parents financially He's a liar. He's a scumbag. He treats women with disrespect. So I learned that don't give that person the time of day. I refuse to speak to him. But I speak to people that I think are decent people, and they could be total strangers. And I give everybody the benefit of the doubt unless they give me a reason not to. But so does that make sense, Paul? It's not necessarily that it was taught to me, but it's who they are. If you have good people around you in your life, then you can learn from them. Does that make sense?
It is. It's also a choice because when I grew up, my dad used to beat us. He cheated on my mom, threw her through a wall. I grew up in a very abusive house.
That's horrible.
But at the same time, I'll share this very 30-second story and I'll jump off. There was these two brothers that grew up in a house, and one brother was a really good husband and he loved his family, and the other brother was an alcoholic and he used to beat his family. And this reporter was wondering, why did the brothers turn out so different growing up in the exact same house? And he said to the first brother, how did you turn up so successful? He said, because my dad was an alcoholic and he used to beat us. And he asked the other brother, how did you turn out this way? He's like, my dad was an alcoholic and he used to beat us. So one brother used it as a stepping stone and the other as a stumbling block. At some point, we have to stop blaming our parents for who we are, and we have to take personal responsibility and choose a different path.
Yeah, well said, Paul. By the way, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that growing up, man. I didn't know that. That's terrible.
It made me who I was today, Brian. That's how I look at it.
Well,
it molded me to who I am.
I know you're a good guy, and FYI to all the listeners out there, I'm planning on taking a couple days off at the end of this month, and we're trying to work out a schedule where Paul will hopefully be able to fill in for me because he did a wonderful job last time. So hopefully we can make that happen, Paul. I know the listeners love you, my friend.
All right, bud.
All right, take care.
Later.
Paul Lance, everybody. Follow him on TikTok. He's got a very large following on TikTok. I'm very jealous of it. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Pat. Pat is next on PTL. What's up, Pat?
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Pat.
Hey, PTL family. I love all of you. Brian, that guy yesterday was a typical MAGA. He tried to talk over you. MAGA's always saying that, oh, I haven't heard about that. Oh, I didn't read. I need to do some more study on that. It's always, and before I forget, Paul, I love you. I follow you on Facebook. But these MAGA people, they are ridiculous. Before you can finish asking the question, he's mumbling. He doesn't want to hear what you have to say. Oh, I don't know much about that. I need to study this. I need to study that. And he's just a total racist. Everything is okay long as it's
but here's the thing, right? Now, here's the thing. I'm going to tell the listeners this. So a lot of the listeners were wondering why that interview was so long. First of all, that interview was only supposed to be 30 minutes. The reason why I kept him on was because our phone lines weren't working. As you know, a big part of this show is fan interaction and listeners and giving you guys the platform.
Right.
I never want to take that away from you guys.
No,
but
I don't have a problem with that because I need to hear so I know what they are thinking.
Sure, absolutely. I appreciate you for saying that. Point number two, and that's kind of the point I'm making. I'm going to occasionally have people on the show that are despicable people. I'm going to occasionally have people on the show that, we might disagree with literally on everything.
Exactly.
But my goal...
We need to know what they're thinking, how they're moving. That's the only way you're going to find out what's going on in somebody's head. You have to listen to the other side.
Expose them. Debate them and let people form their own opinions. But I'm never going to do an echo chamber show where I only interview people that I agree with.
Exactly.
Now these days it's getting harder and harder to get MAGA Republicans to come on my show as guests. I'll be honest with you there. Thank you for the call, my dear. I appreciate you. Going back to the phone lines, let's go to Craig. Craig is next up on PTL. Hey, Craig, what's going on?
Hello, Brian. Hey, Brian, I would like to talk to you today about the attack on the poor.
Okay.
This president and this goon squad that are attacking the poor.
Mm-hmm.
I live on a disability, and I around $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And where is it in this big beautiful bill? Taking away as a listener I was listening to said $500 billion in just Medicare.
Yeah.
I'm facing some struggles in life right now, and I need my Medicare benefits. All for the rich and the tax breaks. What is it? $4.5 trillion in tax breaks
Well,
for the rich.
I'll make it. Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, Craig. So I'll make it even easier. It's very simple. These are the biggest tax breaks for the top 1% in American history in this big and beautiful bill. It's very simple. Donald Trump is spitting in your faces out there, ladies and gentlemen, unless you're a billionaire. And he's saying, I'm going to give the biggest tax breaks to my friends and the richest people in this country, while 99.99% of the country is going to suffer for it. That's what's in this big and beautiful bill.
It's just disgusting.
It is, and I want people like you getting taken care of, my friend, and I appreciate you listening and calling in. I'm there with you, brother. I'm there with you. Let's go to Dave. Dave is next up on PTL. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Brian?
Hey.
Here, I have a special guest for you.
Who's that?
You ready for it?
Who's that?
Let's see if you can try to get her. Boy, I doubt if you can get her. Anna Navarro.
I
would love to have her.
I actually had
love her.
I love her too.
Go ahead.
So I had the opportunity to meet Anna Navarro in Las Vegas briefly when she was campaigning for Kamala Harris. Very intelligent woman, very outspoken. I love it when she debates these MAGA Republicans. She's been a Republican her whole life. I would like to get her. I would like to get her on the show. If anybody out there has any contact information for her people, I would love to get Anna Navarro on the show, because we get a lot of these CNN.
Awesome.
We get a lot of these CNN panelists on the show on a weekly basis, but that's one that I've never interviewed before, and I think she's fantastic. I agree with you.
Like what's his name was on your show? Not Parker, but the other one. What's his name? Adam. Remember?
Adam Mockler. Yeah, he's a friend of mine. Adam's great.
Wasn't he on the panel with? I don't know,
yep.
but
Adam's done in the last week. Adam's done Chris Cuomo, Newsmax, CNN, and a few other shows too. Adam's everywhere. So Adam's been doing my show for years, because I knew years ago that he was going to be a star. I knew that years ago.
All right, my last one for you. Bill Maher came back on the air for season number whatever, his new season premiere this fall, and just to let you know, he has really not mocked Trump at all. He has not made any jokes about him.
I don't watch Bill Maher. I don't watch him anymore.
He's gotten awful.
Scumbag.
He's gotten really bad.
By the way, I have personal experiences with Bill Maher. I've met him several times. He's a scumbag. He's a two-faced scumbag who doesn't even believe a lot of the stuff he says. He's trying to be friendly with the MAGA cult out there. The things he said about that meeting or dinner with Donald Trump were absurd and despicable. And to me, Bill Maher lost all credibility. I used to watch his show all the time, but he's not a nice person. I have personal stories about him and personal experiences with him myself. He's not a good person. He's a snotty prick.
I went to his show.
Yeah.
I went to his show.
Yep.
I went to his show when Ben Affleck was on the stage. So I flew all the way to LA just to see that show, the taping of the show.
Well, I met him.
And to be honest, make a long story. To be honest with you, he's looking for ratings, and that's why
all
he's
he
going
cares
the
about.
opposite direction.
That's all he cares
thank
about.
you for taking my call.
Thank you, my friend. I met Bill Maher when he performed at the Pearl here at the Palms, and I went backstage after the show a few times, and I've spoken with him, and he's very pretentious. He's very snotty, and at times extremely insulting. And I saw what he's like behind closed doors, and I didn't like what I heard. I just didn't think he was a very nice guy at all. So everyone, I would ask everyone to check out my website. We run an independently owned radio show, and we rely on good people like you to support what we do. People like Shelly out there. By the way, Shelly was Marjorie today, for those of you that don't know. I knew that was Shelly. We had fun with Shelly today. She says, I love you, Brian. Sorry about that. I had to do it, but I promise I'll never do it again. Thank you, Shelly, for your support. So Shelly's one of those people that you can support me in the YouTube Super Chat, but even better, go to my website. We run an independently owned show. This is independent media. So if you like what I do and you listen to the show, obviously we want you to spread the word, but go to my website, pushingthelimits.live. You go to my website, pushingthelimits.live. You can make monthly donations, $5, $10, $20 a month, whatever you can afford. You'll see a little button there that says donate. It takes 5 minutes of your time. We'd really appreciate that. We also sell PTL shirts, hats, and gear up there as well. So we appreciate your support. Whatever you can afford, we greatly appreciate it. And please be interactive on YouTube. We see the thumbs up there. It'll take you 2 seconds. Give me the thumbs up on YouTube. Write some comments in there. Please share it and give me a thumbs up, because it helps us with our engagement. Tomorrow on the show, Leonard Cardinal will be joining us in studio, and we might have some other special guests as well. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York